Grammar Girl here. I'm Mignon Fogarty, and you can think of me as your friendly guide to the English language. Writing, history, rules, and cool stuff. Today, we'll talk about why it's so hard to detect sarcasm in text and steps you can take to help people understand you better. And I have a tidbit about where we get the phrase filthy lucre to describe money. This sentence begins the best podcast segment you will ever hear. Chances are you thought that last statement might be sarcasm. Sarcasm, as a linguist Robert Gibbs noted, includes, quote, words used to express something other than, and especially the opposite of, the literal meaning of a sentence, unquote. A form of irony, it also tends to be directed toward a specific individual. However, it's not always easy to figure out if a writer is being sarcastic, particularly as we march ahead in a digital age that's transformed the way we communicate, with texting, emailing, and online commentary replacing face-to-face chats or phone conversations. In writing, the signal of sarcasm can be muddied. For example, say you're texting with a friend about meeting at the movies. Your friend texts, "I'm waiting at the front. Movie starts in 5. You, "I'm on my way now. Should be there in 10. Your friend, "I'm glad you were watching the clock today." Was the friend being sarcastic or sincere? The later you are, the more upset they'll likely be, and the higher the probability their response is a sarcastic jab. But if your friend knows you're usually much later, they could be sincere. So there's one thing to look for. How well does the attitude the writer's conveying agree with the situation and the person? Nonetheless, the struggle to interpret written sarcasm is real. Studies have shown that people realize they have a tough time interpreting sarcasm in writing. Studying the use of email, researchers found writers who think they're being obviously sarcastic still confuse readers. Sarcasm thrives in ambiguous situations, and that's the main issue. When delivered in person, sarcasm tends to assume a cutting, bitter tone. But written messages don't always get that attitude across or give you much else to go on. We still need more information. Studies have examined the use of sarcasm in a variety of everyday situations, whether it's at work to give criticism or praise, or in situations where social norms get violated. Be on time to movies, people. The problem is that a lot of previous studies of sarcasm have been done on spoken sarcasm, which tends to give listeners clues. When you have a conversation with someone face-to-face, or FaceTime to FaceTime, and they say something sarcastic, you'll see their facial expression, and they may look slightly bemused or tense. Equally or more helpful, the tone of their voice will likely change too. They may sound more intense or draw out certain phrases. You'll also be firmly grounded in the real-time context of the situation. So when they say, "Man, nice job ironing your clothes," you can look down and see your wrinkled shirt. All of these cues have been researched, and we know enough about them that we have the ability to artificially make a sincerely spoken statement sound sarcastic. And yet, when we text, a lot of that information goes missing. There are no facial cues, no vocal tones, and maybe even a delayed response if a person can't text you back immediately. And if you don't know the person all that well, there goes your last potential cue, history. So after what you thought was an unexceptional first date, exactly how do you interpret the following flurry of texts? Date: I had a great time, 12:03 a.m. That was the most fun I've had in years, 12:05 a.m. Really, it could not have gone better, 12:30 a.m. Was the date really that good? Did they seem like they had that much fun? Or are they just a jerk lamenting the wasted time? All valid questions, and the recipient could come to a lot of conclusions. Fear not, the digital age has developed some ways to mitigate some of the torturous ambiguity. You can probably include an emoji to make it clearer to a reader something was meant sarcastically. I had a great time, 12:03 a.m. That was the most fun I've had in years, tears of joy emoji, widely used to show something is funny, according to Emojipedia, 12:05 a.m. It really could not have gone better. Expressionless face emoji, which may convey a sense of frustration or annoyance. 12:30 a.m. Well, ambiguity reduced and facial expression taken care of. Probably not headed for date number 2. If we're talking about email, we also have modifications that can be made to text. We can italicize or bold words to change the way a reader interprets the message. Lastly, social media platforms like Twitter have given writers even more tools to allow people to communicate their intent. A study that included sarcastic tweets found that tweeters who included the hashtag sarcasm tend to use more interjections, wow, and positive wording for negative situations in their sarcastic tweets. Algorithms have actually been built to determine the presence of sarcasm and rudeness in tweets, user reviews, and online conversations. The formulas were able to identify language that's outright rude pretty easily. But in order to correctly detect sarcasm, researchers found that algorithms needed both linguistic and semantic information, that is, language and meaning information, built in. In other words, sarcasm's subtlety means that the algorithms require more specification in their coding, unless you use the hashtag sarcasm, of course. With so many options to choose from, it's time to make sure that text you send at 2:30 a.m. really gets your point across. Winking emoji. That segment was written by Sarah Peters, who's an assistant professor of psychology at Newberry College in South Carolina. This article was originally published on The Conversation and is included here through a Creative Commons license. Before we get to filthy lucre, today's episode is sponsored by Masterclass. Masterclass is your portal to learn from the best of the best through online classes taught by masters of their craft. Classes cover a ton of categories. You can learn to sing from Christina Aguilera, to write for television from Shonda Rhimes, or to write for young audiences from R.L. Stine. They have so many classes that everyone's going to be able to find something they'd love to learn. You can access Masterclass on your phone, on the web, or even on Apple TV. And each class is broken out into quick video lessons and downloadable materials that you can explore at your own pace. The most recent course I watched was about creative writing from Margaret Atwood, and it's just so fascinating. She says she doesn't start her stories with an idea. Sometimes she even starts with just an object. And she confesses to using too many semicolons. She has to negotiate with her editor about which ones to keep. And of course, there's lots of practical advice, too, about writing sensory details and revising and so on. I'm really enjoying her masterclass, and I highly recommend you check it out or one of their other great writing courses. You can get unlimited access to every masterclass, and as a listener, you get 15% off the annual all-access pass. Go to masterclass.com/grammar. That's masterclass.com/grammar for 15% off Masterclass. This holiday season, when you're doing your gift shopping, check out our sponsor, Canvaspeople. Canvaspeople prints your favorite memories on canvas and turns them into unique works of art to display in a home. We all have so many pictures these days that it's easy to find a photo that'll make a wonderful, personal gift, even for that new friend or a relative whose tastes are hard to pin down. Print a memory you shared together, or just a picture of the family dog. Everyone loves a picture of their pet. And the editors at Canvaspeople can improve your photo by hand before printing to make sure it looks perfect. A canvas print is the perfect way to decorate a home and bring memories to life. And now, as a special, very limited holiday offer, Canvaspeople.com is offering their popular 11 by 14 photo canvases free. That's right, free. These normally sell for $69.99, but you'll pay nothing, just cover shipping and handling. To get your free canvas, text grammar to 64,000. Just pay shipping and handling. I don't think this offer will last. Text grammar to 64,000. That's grammar to 64,000. A few days ago, I used the phrase filthy lucre, and my husband looked at me like I was speaking a different language. It means something like dirty money or an unclean gain. I feel like I've used that phrase my whole life, but he'd never heard it before. and that got me wondering about its origin. Before we talk about the phrase, let's look at the strange word my husband was unfamiliar with, lucre. It comes from the Latin word lucrum, which also gave us the word lucrative. According to Edom Online, lucrum meant gain, advantage, profit, wealth, or riches. Lucre has had a negative connotation since its earliest days in English. The first citation in the Oxford English Dictionary is from the theologian John Wycliffe, who in his works from 1380 refers disapprovingly to worldly honor and lucre. Just a few years later, in 1386, Chaucer used the term in the Prioress's Tale, referring to the lucre of villainy. The exact phrase I'm familiar with, filthy lucre, didn't turn up until 1526, when William Tyndale used it as the translation of a line from the Greek version of the Bible's Book of Titus. In the verse, Paul is warning against false teachers, saying they are teaching things which they ought not, because of filthy lucre. According to a site about the King James Bible called the King's English, the phrase filthy lucre appears 4 times in that version of the Bible, each time being used to refer to, quote, a grave temptation for gospel ministers, unquote. Given that the word filthy has been associated with unseemly money since the 1500s, it's actually surprising that it took at least 300 more years for people to start describing the wealthy as being filthy rich. Also surprising to me is that in modern use, lucre appears outside the phrase filthy lucre. That's the only way I've ever heard it used, but in the corpus of contemporary American English, only 19 out of 66 entries for lucre were for the phrase filthy lucre. The corpus also includes newfound lucre, measly lucre, and many instances of lucre just used alone as a substitute for money, and usually again with a negative connotation. The phrase filthy lucre does seem to be falling out of favor a bit, at least in published books. Going by a Google Ngram search, which shows how often words or phrases appear in books that Google has scanned, the phrase filthy lucre was much more common in the 1800s than it is today. But in 1996, the band the Sex Pistols did go on a tour they called the Filthy Lucre Tour. They later released an album from that tour called Filthy Lucre Live. So there you have it. Filthy lucre first appeared as a translation from the Greek for something like shameful or dishonest gain in the Tyndale Bible, and has been used ever since to describe corrupting money or profit earned in a dishonorable way. And lucre as a standalone word for money also usually has a negative connotation. Finally, I have a Familect story from Erica.
Hi, Grammar Girl. This is Erica. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I have a little story for you about my family's word for chocolate milk. We call it mopmaninilit. I don't know quite how to spell that, but it comes from the phrase chocolate in it, which is what my older brother would say if he wanted chocolate milk. He would say, I want mopmaninilit, or chocolate in it. So now if I go visit my parents, I will have coffee with my breakfast, and my nephew will have mopmaninilit. Thank you so much for your podcast. I listen all the time, and it's actually the first podcast that I've ever listened to, and so because of you, I'm now a fan of many, many podcasts. So thank you so much for that, and thanks for sharing my story. Bye.
Thanks, Erica. I love to hear that I introduced people to the bigger world of podcasting. Once you get started, there's so much free and fabulous entertainment. You all know. So everyone listening, do your friends or family members a favor this week and show them how to listen to podcasts so they can enjoy them too. Pick at least one person and do it. And if you want to share your family dialect story, leave a voicemail at 833-214-GIRL, like Erica did, and you might hear it on the show. That's 833-214-4475. I'm Mignon Fogarty, better known as Grammar Girl. You can find me at the home of my podcast network, quickanddirtytips.com. Also, if you haven't already, remember to check out my new course at LinkedIn Learning and lynda.com. It's called Grammar Girl's Quick and Dirty Tips for Better Writing, And people have already bookmarked individual videos from the course more than 2,500 times. So go see why, after watching, people want to go back to these videos again and again. Thank you to my producer Nathan Sams and my editor Karen Hertzberg. That's all. Thanks for listening.